Welcome back to the channel, Exile. In this week's video, we are presenting the best version of Shockwave Totem. It is the final version I'm going to be working on, and I believe it to be the strongest. In last week's video, we've presented a Twink leveling guide to get you all the way from the beginning of the campaign to endgame. That guide still applies. At the end of that video, we promised we would test Warbringer versus Titan and pick a winner for the strongest version of the build. And the answer is, it's neither. It's the Gemling Legionnaire. Find out why right after the showcase. Let's dive in, guys. One of the questions that I got most under the YouTube videos was, how about endgame, how about bosses? So that's why I did a exclusively endgame showcase video for you guys, so you can see you're gonna have just as much of a good time in endgame as you will in maps with this build. Next up, we're gonna dive into why I believe the Gemling Legionnaire to be better than the Titan and the Warbringer. Let's first talk a little bit about the Warbringer. We've done a Titan guide already on the channel. I promised I would test the Warbringer, and here are the results from that. The Warbringer has about 40% of the damage if you use a shield versus the Titan. I believe the Warbringer to be meant to be played somewhat defensively, with all the defensive nodes that we have on the Ascendancy. You could dual wield with a Warbringer as well, but I believe the Titan to be the stronger dual wielder because of the 50% scaling of the small nodes that we show in the Titan guide. That means if you are to dual wield between Titan and Warbringer, you would go Titan, and that's the reason why I try to play the Warbringer defensively with a very good shield. If you move through the map with the Warbringer and its shield, you will rarely take any damage. Defensively, it feels ridiculously good. At level 89, I only had 1 death on it. But here's the problem. A couple of hours later, I had 3 deaths. Once you encounter a map boss, your shield becomes useless. There are quite a few boss abilities that you cannot block. Now I can hear you think, yes, but you can weapon swap, snapshot, and I know that's possible, but that's besides the point. The point is that during 90% of your gameplay you are going to feel safe. You have a shield in your hand and you think, okay, I'm not getting hit, I'm just blocking everything, I'm regenning nicely just like the Titan, I'm not going to die. But when it matters most, in the most dangerous fights, your shield becomes useless. Literally useless. Now think about maps where you're running around with the Delhi fog around you and you cannot even see certain telegraphed attacks, specifically from the Act 2, beginning of Act 2 hyena boss. You can't see it coming, you die. And after that I died 2 more times, both to map bosses. Meaning, during general mapping gameplay it feels almost immortal, but when you need that safety most, you don't have it. To me, that was a huge disappointment. Which led me to the conclusion that if using a shield is only good in just walking through the maps, but not when you need it, the entire idea of wearing a shield at all is a bust, and it led me to searching for a different way of scaling safety. You're looking at it right now. 8,200 life, the Gemling Legionnaire. Now between the Titan and the Warbringer, the Titan has the best damage. If you are leveling a warrior right now and you're like, I don't want to be bothered doing a Gemling no matter how strong it is, I get that, go Titan. Between the two, that's the best character. Armor break right now is kinda for Shockwave totem, so I would say the Titan takes that clearly. The reason why the Gemling Legionnaire is best is twofold. First and foremost, this is going to be very hard to beat. Doubling the bonuses from strength is going to be so hard to ignore once you start scaling strength on every single piece of gear. To the point where some pieces of your gear will actually have all attributes on top of that as well. Even the weapons have strength. It's on everything. Scaling strength to that insane degree on your gear and having your tree pretty much set up like this is what gets me towards this insane amount of life. With the insane amount of regen that we've showcased as well, 2000 regen per second. And that feels way stronger and way safer than the Titan, and definitely safer than the Warbringer that isn't safe at all once it's facing bosses. Therefore, the Gemling Legionnaire takes this contest clearly. It's not even a contest at all. At twice the life of both those other characters, at about the same damage as the Titan, we're talking about maybe 15% damage loss at best, this thing is just a beast. But there's one more reason why the Gemling Legionnaire takes it, and it's an economical one, a financial one. Now, as of the making of this video, that is still the case. I'm not sure how that will be in a couple of weeks, but for now, if you want a low strength requirement weapon, you're going to be paying the motherload. It's going to be 12, 13, 14 div for a low strength plus 7 hammer. We don't care with our 1000 strength. That means these hammers are going to be like 2 div. You can sell your old hammers for 13-14 div, buy these 2 new hammers and this crazy expensive belt, and you'll break even. So you'll have the belt, and you have 2 new weapons. On top of that, the +1 level here means that 1, 8, 15, 18, 20 plus 20 from your gem equals 40. We no longer need the Prism of Disbelief to get to level 40 on our Shockwave totem. Now the Prism of Disbelief, the cheapest ones go for 10 to 15 div, but I was using a +2 on the previous setup, the Warbringer, because shield, lower levels, and that was 30 div. A +3 is 120 div. So by selling the old Prism of Disbelief, I had ample money to get myself this jewel and still had 20 divs left. Economically speaking, the Titan has easier access to power than the Warbringer, but the Gemling Legionnaire takes the cake. Because, simply put, the weapons are super cheap. You don't need this belt to get this build going. You can go for a high strength belt, cap your resistances, and you don't even need to invest this 25 div. This character has the most power available with the lowest investment as of the making of this video. It has the most life, it has the most regen, and it has the most options to build with, considering things like curses, because it doesn't care about any attributes other than its highest, which is strength. I don't think there's any discussion possible between these 3 classes. I think between the Warbringer, Titan and Gemling, first place, hands down, is going to be the Gemling, second place Titan, and the third place, sadly, the Warbringer. Okay guys, let's dive into the skills of the build. We are still using Shockwave totem, except we don't need inspiration anymore, because we have so much regen and so much life that we can go for a different 6th socket. In this case that is heft, meaning you will have brutality, heft, martial tempo, overabundance and magnified effect, where you swap out magnified effect for concentrated effect for pure unadulterated power when you need it. Now we don't have a big amount of excess spirit anymore, because we are now using Time of Need and Blasphemy with Temporal Chains. Now the Blasphemy, Temporal Chains combo and range really isn't all that great. You can see the curse radius is 2.1 meters, which means you have to be very close to an enemy to apply. But that's not really the case anymore with what we've done with this build. It is 4.3 meters. It's over double the radius. You guys are going to find out why that is once we dive into the tree and the jewels that we use. But just know that this in fact does work. Enemies nearby or relatively nearby will be slowed by 1/3, adding an extra layer of safety to an already nigh unkillable build. Right now we have died 1 time, and the 1 time we've died was to a Sanctum boss floor 4 where we didn't pay attention to the lightning wave due to that being our first fight. Otherwise than that, in 90 levels this guy just won't die. So yes, this I think right now is going to be the pinnacle version, the Time of Need, obviously with the vitality for the extra regen, and this combination of skills seems to be working really well to create the safest and strongest version of this build we've seen yet. Let's dive into the gear of this build. As always, we are using +7 weapons. Now before you go, but dude, we've checked the market, those are... Well, actually, no. These are high strength requirement versions. You can go up to 200 strength if you want to, and it won't matter because we have 1000 strength. Those weapons will run you about 2 div, not 13 to 14 div. With the currency you have left over from selling these, in my case I got myself an ingenuity. You don't need to do that. You can go for a high strength belt with proper resistances and life, but at 75% of equipped rings, that means you have 1.5 item extra versus 1 item extra. So if you put a belt here, you lose out on half an item slot worth of stats. Is that a disaster? It's not. So you can save 22-23 div by not grabbing this and investing it elsewhere. But I would recommend that if you do have the currency, you go for this belt because it is best in slot by far. For the other gear, you're going to be noticing some reoccurring themes. This one has a little bit of accuracy rating on it. That is not by design, it simply had that on there, which is also why I am not using Resolute Technique. If your chance to hit on your totem is not at 100% on the slams, you will need to go Resolute Technique, keep that in mind. Regeneration on the implicit, and resistances, and here we go. Strength. High life and strength will be on each and every item possible. It's going to be on everything. Even the weapons have strength by design. If you're lucky enough to either get very high resistances on items like these, or you start searching, life searching and sniping jewels with a corruption of resistances on there that, believe it or not, are the same price as the jewels without that corruption, then you will cap your resistances, or very close to, I know guys, this is also bugging me, by just having the resistances on your gear. You will then put 2% increased maximum life runes everywhere, giving you 10% increased maximum life, or about 800 life extra. Definitely worth it, so try to cap your resistances without messing with runes. To that end, what we have is an amulet with +3 and as much strength as we can get. 58 strength, which you basically have there with your attributes, is better than not having your attributes but having life on there. Attributes matter more than anything here. If you can get an amulet like this with life on top of it, more power to you. Helmet, like we said, resistances, strength, high life. The armor, high regeneration rate, very high life with very high strength and resistances. For the boots, this is only a 25% movement speed. It's another thorn in my eyes, honestly. I was a little pressed for divines with all the testing I've done, so I couldn't go for the 30 on that. But once again, high resistances, high strength, high life. Mana, wasted stat, don't need it. For the gloves, +2 all melee, high strength, resistances where you can get it, high life. And for your rings, this is where you will be capping your resistances. Some extra chaos res, some extra all res, and once again, high strength, high life. In this case, the intelligence you see on there is not necessary at all. It doesn't do anything for us because we satisfy everything to strength. So if you could get more chaos res on there, it would be better, but you know, budget. So your most important things are just capping your resistances, strength and life on every piece of gear except for the amulet and the gloves, where you will also be scaling melee skills, and the helmet and armor will you also be scaling life regeneration implicit. For the charm, we will also be using the used when you become frozen, reduced charges per use, or more charges gained, but you pretty much don't want to be frozen. And for a life flask, always go for an increased amount recovered. But honestly guys, with that amount of regen, over 2000 in just 2 levels, this flask is just, it's a pinprick. You might as well not have it. Now I've included this into the 3 section as well, but I'll include it in the gear section. For jewels, what you'll be looking for is life regeneration rate and area of effect 10%. We don't scale area of effect on the 3 anymore, so having 10 of these jewels is 100% area of effect, which, like we said before, scales our curse aura as well as our shockwave totem. So even without all the AoE nodes, we still have that crazy AoE. So once again, life regeneration rate, AoE, and one of the 4 damage modifiers being global physical damage, totem damage, melee damage, or attack damage for your jewels. Let's take a look at the skill tree, the passive tree of this build. And as you can see, it looks somewhat similar, but some things seem to be missing. A couple of things you immediately notice is we don't have this totem cluster. And we don't seem to be scaling any kind of AoE. Here, 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 and here. Yet, if you look at the screen, that AoE is still there. What's going on? Well, we have replaced all those things by jewel power. And what I mean with that is something like this. We have life regeneration rate, damage, and 10% increased area of effect on quite literally every possible jewel. Doing that with 10 jewels gives us 100% increased area of effect. Now, as I explained in the skills portion of this guide, that also applies to curses, which is different from using these nodes, which clearly states increased area of effect for attacks. That means we have double the radius of our blasphemy, meaning everything that even gets close to us, which is pretty rare, gets slowed down by 1/3 by scaling the AoE literally everywhere on the jewels that we can do it. So for jewel priority, once more, life regeneration rate, AoE, and as a 3rd priority, damage. If you can find those jewels with some kind of a corruption that enhances your resistances a little bit, it's going to help you cap your resistances much more easily. And you'd want to be doing that because, like we're going to explain in the gear section, the runes you're going to put in your gear are going to be life runes, to gain even more life. So if you can cap the resistances on your gear and a little bit through your jewels, you're gonna be a happy camper, guys. For leveling this, I'm gonna go really quickly over the order of the tree. It's going to be going down here, grabbing this first, down to the left, grab this, then you grab the jewel, that jewel, that jewel, and that jewel. Grab this jewel. Doesn't have to be the unique jewel just yet, but make sure there's a jewel in there with life regeneration rate, AoE if you can get it while you're leveling, and preferably one damage modifier, whether that's global physical damage, totem damage, melee damage, or attack damage. And that's your basic starting point at level 30, something like that, 35 maybe. After that, you're gonna go and grab regen here, here, and here. And then you're gonna rush right up here, grab the jewel slot, and grab blood magic. At around level 45 to 50, you will have blood magic. If every jewel that you can find has life regeneration rate, and you've taken these nodes and these nodes and these nodes, at that point, together with the enhanced effectiveness that you will have at that point, you will have enough regeneration rate to do blood magic. And after that, guys, you start scaling strength here, and grab more jewels here, here, and here. That's kind of the order of importance there. For your Ascendancy, what you'll be doing is, your first Ascendancy, you grab this. At the second Ascendancy, you remove this again to grab this, because it's way too good, right? The enhanced effectiveness, doubling what strength does for you, is part of what makes us have 8000 plus life. And the adaptive capability is part of what makes us able to use such high int requirement curses, because we don't care. Our highest attribute is strength, and it satisfies gems requirements just fine. Then you can skip the third Ascendancy and go right for the fourth if you have enough power on your setup, and you will gain both at the same time. And you're going to gain 14% quality of your gems, giving your totem more attack speed or less attack time, which is effectively the same. And you're going to get +1 level of all skills. We are investing a little bit into something like this. Against the Darkness. Against the Darkness is a jewel that has a multitude of possible options on it, and the way you will find this one is you're going to search on the trade site for Against the Darkness for, let's say, 2 div at beginning rate, and you're gonna search for 1% increased maximum life by typing Ctrl+F on your keyboard and typing it into your browser. You're then going to have to look through all of them until you find one that has increased strength. Do not necessarily seek for a 4%er, that might be way more expensive, but go for a 2%er. You could scoop those for 5 to 6 div. It's going to divine up to 4%. Why this jewel? Take a look at the life and take a look at the strength. That's why. It is that strong. We gain 4% strength here, 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 and here. And we gain a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15% increased maximum life. It is an insane jewel. I would highly recommend you go for this. If you cannot afford this, guess what? You're going to be putting in another one of these. Life regeneration rate with damage and area of effect. That also means you don't need these nodes, and you don't need these nodes, and you don't need this right side of the tree. So you're going to be going for more regen here if you don't have that jewel. And you're going to go for maybe a little bit extra strength here. Or you try to rush towards here for another jewel. But I would go for the regen on the tree here and a little bit extra strength to compensate. But you're gonna lose out if you don't have that jewel. Highly recommend you go for that. So this is the tree for this setup. I don't think it'll change much. I'm still experimenting. If that is the case, you will find out about that live on Twitch. But I believe this to be somewhat the final version, at least for level 90. Once we push past level 90, we're going to be taking these nodes for extra regeneration rate. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Because personally, I don't feel we're starved for damage. So trying to rush or trying to gain some extra physical damage with some attack speed, it's preference. If you want to do that, you can do that. But for me, the regeneration rate is what makes this feel so incredibly good. And you're going to be way past 2000 if you do that. The regeneration rate right now is only at 1804, but I can show you guys what happens if we were to just give ourselves a couple of extra nodes. grab that one away for 4th level. There it is. 2100 life regenerated per second in another 3 to 4 levels. And we got a point left, my bad. There we go. 2114 life regenerated per second. So, which is another quarter of your life per second. And it's half a Titan, or even more than half a Titan and half a Warbringer per sec. This is what keeps you so safe. It's ridiculous. If you made it to the end of this video, you are pretty much a champ, guys. In next week's video, we are not just gonna showcase a build, but we're gonna talk about what this build can be used for to generate currency. Because now that we have all the power and safety and defense in the world to pretty much do all the content that we can in this game, it is time to look towards generating currency to go for even more exotic builds. If you like these kind of guides, these kind of showcases and these kind of videos, please leave a thumbs up, leave a like. If there's something you would try differently in this setup, leave that in the comment section as well. Comments really do help the channel grow, guys. For now, thank you all for watching. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one.